All right, everyone, good morning. It is Tuesday morning, I believe, for most of you watching this. And we're back with the morning briefing from the Celtic Way. Tony's here. Kevin's the main show, always on a Tuesday, though. Kevin, how are things? How are you getting on?
Aye, very good, but slightly despondent with the impending departure of Matt O'Reilly. I think he's in the departure lounge. I'm still hoping. I mean, we can discuss this later, but you know, I'm still hoping that he might have a change of heart for a year.
Yeah. I think we're all going through our various stages of grief, Tony. The denial and all that kind of stuff. Just should just say, if anyone's missed this, there's been reports last night, I think from various outlets, saying that Brighton are basically ready to bid for Matt O'Reilly, and sources seem to say that they're pretty confident they're going to be able to sign him. They're going to offer what we want for Matt O'Reilly. It is just reports at this stage, Tony. Nothing has been done officially. We've not had any quotes from Brendan Rodgers or Matt O'Reilly or anything daft like that, or the Brighton manager. But it does seem like Brighton are very serious about getting O'Reilly.
Yeah, I think there's wheels in motion here, aren't there? And I'm inclined to agree with Kevin. He's possibly in the departure lounge. And we all knew this kind of day would come. We didn't want it to come. We'd hoped that he'd maybe hang on. But, you know, people were kind of celebrating the fact that Atalanta had walked away, but there was still plenty of days left in the window. I said it yesterday. You know, there's still plenty of days left. And you knew fine well he would attract attention. But Brighton, over the years, have unearthed that uncanny knack of getting lots of money for their players and able to get value for money for the players that they want to bring in, and then sell them on at huge profits. So I think they're a club that take their business seriously in the wheeling and dealing of players, and I think they're going about their business properly. And it would be no surprise to me if this transfer eventually does go through. But I'd rather it was done in the next couple of days in order for Celtic to have time to give the manager some money to go and find some. You're never going to replace Matt O'Reilly, you know what I mean? Let's be honest. But to find,
you have to try.
You have to try to find somebody of that ilk, or to find a player that can go in that midfield. And there are lots of people worrying about Hatate as well. It'd be utter madness to sell both of those players in this window. I wrote about it the other week. It would just be the ultimate shooting yourselves in the foot. So I can't entertain that. If one of them has to go, so be it. I think it will be O'Reilly. But that's it as far as I'm concerned in terms of major player outgoings. The rest has to be the players that are surplus to requirements. Have to shift them out the door. Don't like referring to them as deadwood, because I think that's pretty disparaging to players who play for Celtic Football Club. But you know the players I'm talking about, the ones that are surplus to requirements.
Let's just check in with Mark E for a bit of positivity, eh? Oh no. Mark, go and have a wee lie down, Mark. We don't need that kind of thinking on today's show, thanks. I guess, I mean, we're sad that it seems to be heading that way, Kevin, but it is a good thing generally that this is Celtic's transfer model. You buy players cheap, you improve them and you sell them on. The transfer model is working, but I guess if someone like O'Reilly does leave, it's difficult to lose a player of that quality.
That transfer model only works. That's only two parts of the equation. It only works if it includes a ready-made replacement. Mm-hmm. And I don't have any confidence that there is one. Tony, you were talking about, you hope that the business if it is going to be concluded, is concluded in the next 2 days, because it will give us a week or so to get somebody in. But to be absolutely honest, from last January, we knew that there was a serious prospect that O'Reilly would be gone this summer. So, we shouldn't be in a situation, and I hope we're not, of scrambling around for a replacement. That replacement should have been identified potentially. In fact, 2 or 3 potential replacements should have been identified long before now, and wheels should be in motion. The other thing that puzzles me, when this comes up, and I agree with you. Obviously, financially, the model is exemplary. If you look at all the players that we bought and sold on for many millions more than we bought them, and this, I'm not being disparaging to Matt O'Reilly here, because his attitude has been absolutely first class, despite all the speculation that's been swirling around him, and that's not something you can say of lots of players in that position, both for us and other clubs in Scotland. But it still puzzles me that you're in your early 20s. You've got 8 games in the Champions League to look forward to, perhaps more, with a major club playing in front of 60,000, and you're tempted at the first request by Brighton and Hove Albion. I mean, Brighton and Hove Albion, I know they've done well the last couple of seasons, but let's speak frankly here. When the dust settles and when the natural order is restored in English football, Brighton and Hove Albion's natural place is the middle of the second tier of English football. That's their natural home, always has been. They'll have the odd flirtation with the top tier, but they are, I'm not saying they're a nothing club, but come on. I mean, I cannot understand why very talented European class players are tempted by clubs like Brighton and Hove Albion, Brentford, Bournemouth, Southampton, when what they could do, where one option exists, is to give Celtic one more season. It's not going to make too much difference. In fact, it will enhance. Potentially enhance your reputation, and therefore attract a far bigger club with far greater standing and reputation than Brighton and bleeding Hove Albion. For God's sake, I mean, come on. I'll never understand.
Yeah. I mean, it's very frustrating when you see players leaving Celtic to go to clubs that we all know are not at the size of Celtic. No one in the right mind would argue Brighton are a bigger club than Celtic. I'm not even obviously going into that. It's the Premier League, isn't it? And it's 38 games in the league that virtually everyone wants to play in these days. The English Premier League, all of these top teams, all of the best managers in the world virtually in that league. We've seen it with our previous manager. We've seen it with our current manager. We've seen it with all of these guys. That's where they want to go a lot of the time. And yeah, take your point. Champions League. I think if we had a season of Champions League games, 38 of them, people like Matt O'Reilly, we could keep them around. We've only got 8 Champions League games. The rest are against Scottish teams, and with all due respect to them, it's a much greater challenge to play against teams down south and the likes of Hibs at the weekend. And there's also the financial aspect as well, isn't there? I mean Celtic pay good money, but clubs like Brighton can blow us out of the water. But it doesn't make it any easier to lose players like that to Brighton, Tony.
No, but you have to look at Brighton's business model as well. Celtic's running a business model, but Brighton's business model over the past, I'd say, 5 to 10 years has been exemplary. They've done it right, and they're now trying to establish themselves as a top tier club for now and the future. And Matt O'Reilly might see that as the next step in his career in terms of progression. He's quite level-headed. Yeah. Brendan Rodgers said he doesn't need to go. Celtic don't need to sell. So the player will have a big say in this, and it's something that might tempt him, as you say, for all the reasons above. I mean, obviously the financial one is there, but it's playing in a so-called higher league with more prestige attached to it, and it is the league that most players worth their salt want to compete in and want to play in. And Celtic's carrot is the Champions League, and Matt O'Reilly would be playing 8 games in the top tier. And as I say, the player will have a major say in this, and players don't have to go, as the manager said. But you kind of feel that Matt's a really old head and young shoulders. And of all the clubs that were coming in for Matt O'Reilly, Brighton was the one that I was kind of worried about the most, because of that business model that they have, because of the way they're a progressive club, and because of the way they've conducted their business and the way they do business in the past few years. That was the one I thought that might tick a box for Matt O'Reilly, in terms of, because he doesn't do the done thing. He left Fulham when they offered him a 4 or 5 year deal to go to MK Dons, and then he felt that people said that was taking a step back. It wasn't, not in his mind. He trained himself to get himself fit, and he had faith and belief in his own ability that he would get to the top. So I think Matt O'Reilly will weigh this up, and I always thought it would be about lifestyle and the football as well, more than anything else. It's a nice part of the world. He's playing in one of the so-called best leagues in the world, and I thought for that reason that maybe Atalanta or Juventus would appeal to him, or Atletico Madrid in Spain. I still wasn't worried about them, but Brighton was the one that I thought it might be that out of the box thinking that Matt O'Reilly has shown a few times when he's spoken. He's told you about speaking to his personal trainer and things like that, and he's let you into many things in his life that are away from the norm as a footballer, or you wouldn't normally associate with a footballer. So I think that he would maybe see it as the hop, skip and jump, do well at Brighton, and he'll get sold on for a fortune and go, I don't know, then other clubs, bigger clubs, take your pick. But I think it might appeal to him in that sense.
Yeah. I personally, I don't have an issue with any of this, to be honest. If Brighton come in and they offer us a Scottish transfer record fee and O'Reilly goes, obviously I'm disappointed to lose him, because I absolutely love watching O'Reilly. But that for me is the Celtic transfer strategy. The big thing for me, guys, is what do we do after that? The replacement. That's the bit I'm really, to be honest, I'm quite a bit like Kevin. I'm quite concerned about that. We signed O'Reilly for $1.5 million. If we get 25 million for O'Reilly, Kevin, for me, we can't go back to signing a $1.5 million replacement. You have to then go up the levels, and you have to look at, a £7, £8, £9 million replacement, spend some of that money on a replacement.
Yeah. Again, let's be honest here. Celtic, the best that Celtic can hope to attract, no matter how much money they have, isn't that 9 to 12 million. Because no player who's worth more than that in the English or European market will it's highly unlikely that they'd want to come to Scotland. If you're worth 15, 20 million and Celtic are willing to pay that, why would you come to Scotland? For 4 games against Rangers in the Champions League. If you're worth 20 million that you'll be playing, it means that you will be attracted, or other clubs of a higher caliber or playing in a higher caliber league will be interested in you. So 9, 10, 11, 12 maybe is the most expensive that I think would be attracted to playing for Celtic in Scotland. But again, I'll come back to my one of my original points, which is that if Celtic's recruitment and scouting strategy is functional, I would have expected 3 players in that category to already have been scouted for maybe soft approaches, to have been made at least to explore whether they would be willing to come, and if that that isn't, then it's pure and simple neglect. That means that several people aren't doing their job properly. It's either that or it's a breathtakingly arrogant and complacent attitude, which we've seen before from assorted Celtic boards, that we've got Bernardo in. Rangers are quite weak at the moment. We don't really need to bother. Why is everybody panicking? I'll go back, and I won't labour this because it's almost ancient history. I'll go back to the cusp of the 86-87 season when Celtic had won the league against all the odds. Rangers began the so-called Soonest Revolution, and because we were winning the title at Christmas, we were 2 or 3 points ahead. The Celtic board's attitude when David Hay said we need strengthening, the attitude was, why are you worried? We're top of the league. We won the league last year. And my overriding fear is that the same sort of attitude is prevalent at the moment in the current Celtic board. We've won the league. Rangers we're at top of the league at the moment. We've got loads of money in the bank. We'll win it again. Why is everybody worried? We're not really a Champions League team. We're a Europa League team. These people don't seem to understand, or they don't seem to feel the same sort of pain that we do. When we go into the Champions League and we get well and truly spanked, 3-4-5-0. I don't have any illusions that if you're playing the likes of Real Madrid, Leipzig, Lazio, Atletico Madrid, that we're going to win or get draws. But what Celtic fans are entitled to expect is not to be beaten 7-1, 7-0, 5-0, 6-0 against teams like that. Because that causes us real pain. It gives us massive reputational damage across Europe, which itself has a knock-on effect on who might be interested in playing for us. And it's an embarrassment. And I have to ask questions. I have to wonder whether that sense of embarrassment or pain is experienced by the Blazers sitting in the stand. I really do.
It's not.
That's we'll wait and see what happens if, and the pressure's on them, because it's not just a replacement for Matt O'Reilly we're soon to be looking for. Brendan Rodgers wanted a midfielder in before then, Tony. There's quotes from the weekend saying, I still think we need another player in that position. If Matt O'Reilly was to go, we'd need 2 more. So you're talking 2 midfielders. We're all talking left back, centre back, potentially third striker, winger, and we've got 10 days. Like, the pressure is really on, but Brendan Rodgers wants this, and he wants a replacement, and it sounds like Arne Engels and Alvin Sanchez are the 2 we're speaking about.
Yeah, they've been linked with them. That kind of smacks of some form of succession planning, thankfully. But again, Arne Engels is 10 million rated, and Alvin Sanchez is 4.5 million. So let's just see how firm that interest is. The manager also reiterated on Sunday about the Champions League. He said, I don't want to be in it to participate. I want to be in it to compete. Now, you're going to compete with your best team, but if you're going to sell one of your best players, then you're seriously damaging and weakening that team. Celtic cannot contemplate selling Matt O'Reilly and not bringing anybody else in. You just can't. I mean, and then they'll probably have the audacity or the gall, but they'll be asking fans to fork out 200 quid for their, or in that region, for their Champions League package. And the Celtic fans will be loath to do that, but they'll do it because it's what they always do. But a lot of them it'll be under the severest protest if they sell Matt O'Reilly and don't bring in anybody. And the Celtic fans deserve to have their best team competing in the Champions League. You knew that Matt O'Reilly would attract suitors because from day one, I think we all realised this guy could play football. and it was a matter of time. And when that train comes along, sometimes players have to jump on it. You can't blame Matt O'Reilly for that. He's just doing what comes naturally to him and be a excellent and outstanding footballer. But to put Brendan Rodgers in a position where it's going to be less than 10 days, well, it's 10 days just now, isn't it? But it's going to be less than 10 days. And Celtic, it looks as if he could be Brighton bound. Then the player can knock it back. I get that. But, Celtic are going to be scrambling around again late on to get in these players that the manager wants. But he's been signposting it for a long, long time. Yeah, you just picked out Sunday stuff, Hamish. I picked up on that as well. That, these are warning shots over the bow, saying if we sell this guy, this is what I need. I don't need one, I need two to go into that competition and not participate, compete. You have to say, are the men upstairs, are they reading the room here? You'd have to say not. They're as detached as they can possibly be, and they don't feel it the way you and I and Kevin feel it when these things happen in the Champions League to their club. They don't feel defeats like that, yet they're going to risk it all again, risk the same thing happening again, because you're going to go into this league format and you're going to be seriously weakened because you're about to go into a deal to sell off one of your best players. And the manager said by the end of the window, judges by then, you're still hopeful and clinging to that they'll be stronger at the end, by 30th of August, and better. I think you have your doubts very much now, don't you?
Yeah, I've not got an issue as much as the whole O'Reilly replacement stuff, because as I say, like we can't control that. My issue is that the left back's not in yet, the centre back's not in yet. Adam Ida took so long to get over the line. I feel we could have been much further ahead at this point. And if we were only looking at having to replace Matt O'Reilly, you would kind of go, right, okay, we can do that, 10 days, but we just have a hell of a lot of work. Like, for me, left back and centre back are like non-negotiable this summer. We have to sign players in those two positions, and I think we'll sign a left back if you push me. I've got my doubts about a centre back, guys, because there doesn't seem to be much chat about that. And the thought of me going in with not even Liam Scales, because Liam Scales has kind of proven himself at domestic level. I think there is an issue there, but you look beyond that, and like Naropsky and Welsh and Lager-Bielka, we're really not sure about. So you're really a Cameron Carter-Vickers injury away from having a pretty dire situation at the back. And for me, it's inconceivable we wouldn't sign a centre back, but I'm getting to the point where I think that might be the case. So there's a lot of work to do, Kevin, in the final 9-10 days of the window.
It's unbelievable we're having this conversation at this moment. I mean,
is it?
If you want to put it this way, the current Celtic squad, even with O'Reilly, is weaker, significantly weaker than in May 2023, when we had Jota, Abada and Starfelt. Those three were big players for us. We lost them all, and we attempted to replace them with a scattergun approach to the recruitment start of last season. And the less said about that, the better. So right now, middle of August 2024, our squad, even with O'Reilly in it, is weaker than it was in May 2023. And that's frankly unacceptable. It's unforgivable, and it points to a structural, almost institutional failure, neglect, complacency, call it what you will, of our custodians. And unfortunately, because what has been introduced to the lexicon over the last few years is that our directors, our custodians, have a fiduciary duty to the shareholders. That's the catch-all. That's the justification for everything, for the way that Celtic are run. You don't hear anything about a duty, a moral duty to the aspirations of the supporters in terms of the club being improved, the reputation of the club being enhanced, not just in Scotland and the UK, but in Europe. And that isn't happening. Every season, when we enter every season without significant outlay for good players, a little bit of our reputation is eroded, and the only people responsible for that are the board of directors. Sadly, they're unaccountable. They're entirely unaccountable.
Well, if things don't go to the plan in the Champions League this year and we're left lacking in certain areas, I think the fans will be quick to let people know, because I can't ever remember there being such a focus on European football as we've witnessed over the last 5-6 weeks. I think the Celtic support in general are just so fed up of us not getting some sort of success at European level. Tony?
You know what? And it always seems to happen when things are going well. There's been so much good about Celtic since the start of the season, hasn't there? And it always seems to be some roadblock put up to hinder that progress. Everybody was looking forward to the Champions League draw, which is in 9 days' time, don't forget as well. And we're just looking forward to the season panning out because they were playing some stuff. And now all of a sudden, the talks turn to negativity again. And the common denominator is the Celtic hierarchy, isn't it? You always want to be talking about the product on the pitch. The manager's got the players playing the way he wants them to, kind of moulding a team in the shape of his own image, that kind of thing. And they're playing excellent football. And now, within a couple of days, we'll just, there's going to be some doom and gloom if they sell this prize asset that we've got. I don't have a problem with players. It's natural progression. And I don't have a problem getting a record fee from them and all of that. But it always seems to be when Celtic are building up a head of steam and then bang, something like this happens. And it's ad infinitum. It's rinse and repeat. We watch this movie happen so many times. It's why we can never progress. It's why we can never go into Europe and be that team that we want to be, the best representation of ourselves. We bang on about it. Guys like ourselves bang on about it. And the fans, hand over fist, pledge their money and their financial support. But it's that emotional investment. You can't put a price on that every Celtic fan puts into this club, and they want what's best for the club. And the only people that can't see it are the ones that sit up there at that AGM and tell you that every year we're working to give the manager a world-class team. Are you? We're working to progress in the Champions League. Are you? We're working for domestic dominance. Yeah, you're doing that because all you want to do is keep Rangers at arm's length while you're filling your coffers and not doing too much about it. With forward planning, Celtic could have been going to this Champions League competition and you're thinking, we're in a good spot, we're in a good place. But every time you seem to be getting some kind of progress, something comes along to just dismantle it. And it's gut-wrenching. I'm not going to stand in the way of Matt O'Reilly leaving. It's natural progression football-wise, and we applaud him for everything that he's done. We applaud Matt O'Reilly because Matt O'Reilly's done his job. It's others that aren't doing their job at this football club just now, and everybody knows who they are. And it just occurs, just recurring, isn't it? And deja vu. Yeah. And Kevin and myself are older, and we remember it all, Hamish. And that's not to go all Celtic down on it, but you'll remember it yourself. With the 10 in a row season, which was just deplorable. Because players were meant to be sold, stayed on, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, I don't know, that they just strip the goodness out of everything, don't they? At times. Those upstairs.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to see where we are at the end of the window. That's my thing. I want to see, who we've got in at that stage. And listen, if there's if the squad isn't ready for the Champions League at that stage, I'll certainly have a lot to say. I feel like I want to kind of hold back a wee bit just in case they do get in. But as I say, I've got my doubts that we'll get everything in that I want. I think the centre back stuff concerns me a bit. Guys, I just want to chat about Aaron Connolly quickly, because there was a mention yesterday. He's a player, he was at Hull City. Talk that he may come in and fit that third forward role.
Hull City.
Are they the latest English club to feel the wrath of Kevin McKenna?
I mean, you know. No, I can't. Sorry, Davies. Carry on about Aaron Connolly.
Well, I was going to ask you, is the talk of him potentially coming in, where are you on like the third striker thing? Because Dyson Maeda was pretty good at the weekend. Would you be happy with Maeda as our third forward this season?
Yeah. No, I mean, if we're talking about a third forward, a third forward is nowhere near as big a priority as a central defender and a left back, and now a creative midfielder. Unless that third forward is a proven, hit the ground running, oven ready, 10, 12 million pound player, not somebody from Hull City, not somebody from Hull City. No, non-starter for me.
Fair enough. He has left Hull City. He was with them last season. He's a free agent now, Tony.
I think the words free agent tick a box when it comes to Celtic, doesn't it? But I mean, my thing about all of this is we have a manager who is getting the team to produce some stuff. Why wouldn't you back this manager? This manager is elite level as Celtic are going to get at this moment in time. I've banged on about it for long and weary, and he's got the team playing some wonderful, wonderful football. And that, like you, Hamish, I don't have a problem with Matt O'Reilly leaving. It's who comes in to fill that void. What was it? 37 goal contributions last season, 19 goals, 18 assists. You know, you can't. And the manager himself said he's irreplaceable yet, but it doesn't stop you from finding him. It doesn't stop you from doing your due diligence to say, right, who's available, and it doesn't stop you from saying at this moment in time, with you having the most money you've ever had in your history, do you know what? Let's really go after somebody of repute here, because we want to go into that competition and compete. Let's go for this. If it's Enkels, so be it. If it's another, so be it. If it's Sanchez, so be it. But, you know, let's show that ambition that the manager clearly has for this football team to take them to the top level and claim a few scalps. That's all we want. But and he said that the judges are at the end of the window. I will judge him at the end of the window, because he said we would be stronger and better. But you know me, I'm a music man. And they're hitting the tuning now is full of bum notes, isn't it? You know,
I mean,
the pitch doing well, but it's just off the pitch.
You can't overstate this either, that it's noticeable, both in the games in the American tour and in the first 3 games of this season, the domestic season, that we're playing at a higher tempo, and that there are more forward passes. You know, the sideways passes, the back passes have been kept to a minimum, and you can tell that this is what Brendan Rodgers has been working on since the players came back. You know, it's not a change in style. It's basically just everything's getting done half a pace quicker. There is more movement. Players who were maybe hesitating to play the forward, the slightly riskier forward pass, are now playing them. And you know, I think we saw that during the Euros, which was the big difference between Scotland and other similar ranked teams in the Euros. Those kind of average ranked teams or nations in the Euros were getting a bit of joy because they had players who were willing to play the riskier pass forward rather than the safe option of sideways and back, which Scotland were playing. Celtic have kind of kept that to a minimum, and you can see that. But for that, and it's the right approach. It's the sort of strategy. It's the sort of way of playing which could get results in Europe, but it has to be married to at least 2 more players who've got the vision, the touch to actually, realise that to its full potential. But again, we've known this since January. we've known this. What is happening right now? We could have predicted in January. You go back to January. There's very few Celtic fans who would have said anything other than that we'll probably win the league, but probably a bit closer than we'd like. There's a good chance we're going to lose Matt ORiley. We need another centre half because the 2 guys we brought in a close season aren't cutting it, and we need another left back option or somebody to challenge with that. We were talking about this in January, and it's all happened. Matt ORiley's on the cusp of going. We won the league, but there were gaps, and the squad is still arguably weaker than it was than the squad that finished the 22-23 season. It's just unfathomable. And I hope, and like you, Hamish, I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping that in the 8 or 9 days there will be at least 3 replacements, and it will have turned out that they will have been scouted, that we've got them for the right price, and that they're ready to hit the ground running. My experience tells me I'm delusional. So.
Don't know what that makes me then. Guess we'll find out. Right, just a few comments before we go. Tom is saying can't sell both Matt ORiley and Haggerty in this window. It would be madness. Again, you guys may disagree. Haggerty hasn't going for me. They're just it can't happen. It won't. I know people say but the board, and I know all that. And Tony, you made that point, and again, you've followed Celtic a lot longer than me. ORiley and Haggerty can't go in the same window. Mark, who is back for more, potentially going into the season with McGregor, Bernardo and Home as our main midfield, and Welsh and Scales at centre back. Mark, Cameron Carter-Vickers isn't going anywhere either. I can guarantee you that one as well. So hopefully that helps out a wee bit. JJ, at least we had a bit of positivity yesterday. The sense of doom is back. I actually feel all right generally about it, but as I say, I'll wait till the end of the transfer window. Tony, give us your final thoughts.
I mean, that's all we've got, and I keep saying that all we've got is to cling on to the manager's quotes that we will be stronger by the end of the transfer window. We always knew the day would come and we'd have to part with Matt ORiley, and there'd be a weeping and a gnashing of teeth. It's what we do to fill that void from Matt ORiley. But the time's ticking now, isn't it? And you can see this dragging on for another week or so, and then he leaves on the 28th, 29th, and then we don't have time to do anything. That's my worry, Hamish, that's all. And certain people have forum for this kind of thing, but I'm as enthusiastic about the product that's on the park at the minute and the way the manager's got us playing. I'm really loving that, and that's what's keeping me, I was going to say sane, that's up to others to judge that, but it's keeping me happy, but the funny way of showing it. But there's just certain things you just think, we're in the same movie again, so. And as I say, I love the Encles link and the Sanchez links, but I'm old school. I know links are good, but signings are better. So, and
the club have to have someone lined up, and if ORiley does go, it'll be interesting to see how quickly we spring into life, because that will tell us if they've had a contingency plan, like Brendan Rodgers hinted at. Right, guys, thanks once again for talking about the club we all love. Thank you to all of you for tuning in and watching and commenting, and nearly 1,200 of you on at the moment, so it's much appreciated. If you are new to us, please consider subscribing to the channel. It would be much appreciated. We do this every day, every weekday, Monday to Friday at 10 a.m. Celtic Park time, and we'll be back tomorrow to do it all again. We'll